Hello children, this is for 7th standard Social Science Geography lesson Unit 2 Landforms. First we will see the learning objectives. Yes, first to know the landforms which are created by river, to describe the landforms which are created by glacial action, to classify the landforms which are produced by wind action, to identify the various landforms about sea wave, to compile the landforms which are produced by the work of a river, glacier, wind and waves. So, in short, we can say that after completing this lesson, we will clearly understand about the landforms formed because of the river, glacial action, wind action and sea wave. Clear children? So, the formation of landforms are due to the river, glacial action, wind action, sea wave. Okay. So, in last lesson we have studied about interior of the earth. Yes, what are all the things which are present inside the earth. So, in this lesson we are going to see about the landforms which we can see on the surface of the earth. Okay. So, the earth has an infinite variety of landforms named as mountains, plateaus, plains, valley, etc. So, some parts of the lithosphere may be rugged and some flat. So, these landforms are formed as a result of two processes, endogenic process and exogenic process. So, what is meant by endogenic? Endogenic means internal process. Yes, endo, the word endo means internal, the word exo means external. So, the endogenic process leads to the upliftment and sinking of the earth's surface at several places. So, due to the internal process of the earth, inside the earth, yes, there will be some of the processes will be taking place. Because of that processes, some of the surface of the earth may uplift, okay, it may rise up or sink into the earth, or it may form a hollow sphere, yes, sphere like structure. So, the endogenic process leads to the upliftment and sinking of the earth's surface at several places. So, after this endogenic process taken off, what will happen? There will be some of the landforms raised or deep. To compensate that one, the external process will be taking place. That process we call it as exogenic process. So, the exogenic process is the continuous wearing down and rebuilding of the land surface. So, what are all the efforts taken on the surface of the earth by the endogenic process will be compensated by means of exogenic process. Then coming to gradation. So, what is meant by gradation? Gradation is a process of leveling of highlands through erosion and filling up of lowlands through deposition. Okay. So, due to the endogenic process, I told the surface of the earth may be uplifted, isn't it? So, that uplifted portion should be compensated, it should be leveled. So, that gradation is a process of leveling of highlands. Okay, how it can be leveled? By means of erosion, and due to the internal forces, I told some of the earth's surface will be deep, sink into the earth. So, that hollow space will be created. How to compensate that one? We have to fill up. Yes. So, this exogenic process will do the filling up of lowlands through deposition. So, leveling of highlands will be carried out by means of erosion and filling up of lowlands will be carried out by means of deposition. So, this both the process we named it as gradation. So, gradation is the process of leveling of highlands through erosion and filling up of lowlands through deposition. Clear children? Yes. Then Coming to landforms. So what is meant by landform? The landscape is being continuously worn away by two processes, that is weathering and erosion. So what is meant by weathering? Weathering is the breaking and falling apart into small pieces of rocks on the earth's surface. So weathering means what? Breaking up of rocks into small pieces on the earth's surface. What is erosion? Erosion is the wearing away of landscape by different agents like water, wind, ice and sea waves. So what is meant by erosion? Erosion is the wearing away of the landscape by different agents. So wearing away will be taking place by means of four agents: water, wind, ice and waves. So in this lesson we are going to see about the landforms which are formed by the different agents like water, wind, ice and sea waves. So in shortly we can say erosion means aripu. Yes, arikkirathu. So the eroded material is carried out by water, wind etc. and eventually deposited. So this process of erosion and deposition create different landforms on the surface of the earth because of the erosion of the uplifted portion or deposition of the lower land portion, different landforms will be formed. So in this lesson we are going to see all this landforms. So first thing, river. So what is meant by river first? The water flowing from its source to river mouth along a definite course is called a river. Yes. So what is meant by river? River is the water flowing from its source to river mouth along a definite course is called a river. So rivers generally it will originate from a mountain or hill. So you can observe this picture. Rivers generally originate from the hills. Yes. So that place we call it as river source. From that it will fall. From the mountain region it will flow or fall on the lower places. That water path we call it as waterfall. Isn't it? So the place of origin of the river is known as its source, and the place where it joins a lake or sea or an ocean is called as the river mouth. So it will originate in a hilly region and it will reach ocean or sea. Okay. So that place we call it as the river mouth. The place where it is originating we call that as the river source. So the running water in the river erodes the landscape, which creates a steep sided valley like the letter V known as V-shaped valley. So river will be originating from the river source, that is on a hilly region, and after that it will run. So the running of water in the river erodes the landscape that is present on the mountain, and it will form a V-shaped steep sided valley like letter known as V-shaped valley. You can observe this picture and you can understand this. Okay, so next one, what is meant by tributary? Tributary means a stream or river that flows into and joins a main river. Tributary means kilaigal. Yes, a stream or river that flows into and joins a main river. Distributary, what is meant by distributary? A stream that branches off and flows away from a main stream. Yes, from the river path it will deviate. Okay, there will be 3 or 4 tributaries on the river. The next one, you can observe this picture. From this picture you can understand some of the landscape. So the water is flowing from the mountain. So on the upper side hard rock will be there, lower side soft rock will be there. So what will happen? The river will erode. Yes, erode the soft rock and it will form a deep structure. Okay. The next one, falling of river water over a vertical step in the river bed is called waterfall. Yes, you know waterfall. Have you seen waterfall? Yes, Kutralam, Ogenekal and all we would have seen waterfalls. Nowadays, no, to create a waterfall appearance in theme parks and all, they are having that waterfall structure. Yes, you can enjoy there. Yes, imagining that as a real waterfall. Now they are producing artificial waterfalls. So falling of river water over a vertical step in the riverbed is called waterfall. So it is formed when the soft rocks are removed by erosion. So on seeing that picture, you have understood the soft rocks will be eroded by means of water. So hard rock will be present there. So the passage of water will be stopped. So it will fall from hard rock. So that it will create waterfall. Example, Kutralam falls across the river Chittar in Tamil Nadu. So do you know it's given the highest waterfall is Angel Falls of Venezuela in South America. The other waterfalls are Niagara Falls located on the border between Canada and USA in North America, and Victoria Falls on the borders of Zambia and Zimbabwe in Africa. The next one is plunge pool. Plunge pool is a hollow feature at the base of a waterfall which is formed by cavitation. So when the water falls continuously throughout the year from the hilly region, so what will happen? It will fall on the lower region, means there will be a hollow space, isn't it? There will be a hollow feature which is produced at the bottom and which is formed by cavitation, that we call it as plunge pool. Alluvial fan. What is meant by alluvial fan? Means alluvial fan is a deposition of sediment occurs at which the river enters a plain or the foothills. The river will originate from the hilly region and it will fall as a waterfall, and it will take its own path and it will move, isn't it? When it enters a plain or the foothills, there will be the deposition of sediment, and that we call it as foothills. Okay, alluvial fan which enters the plain or the foothills. The next one, meanders. Meanders means as a river enters the plain, it twists and turns forming large bends known as meanders. So meanders means when it entered into the plain surface or foothills, what will happen means it will flow like a twist and turns. Zigzag movement will be formed from forming the large bends. So that bends we call it as, that form we call it as meanders. Example, meanders along the river Vellar in Sindhya Thopu in Kadalur district and Tamil Nadu. The next one is, due to this continuous erosion, you can observe this picture. So this during meander, that landform, due to continuous erosion and deposition along the sides of the meander, the ends of the meander loop comes closer and closer. In due course of time, the meander loop cuts off from the river and forms a cut-off lake also called an oxbow lake. So this blue color indicates river that is formed, that is meander, the zigzag movement we call that as meanders. After some time, after prolonged time, the erosion will be taking place and also the deposition will also be taking place at the corners, and it will, the distance between the loop will be coming down, and what will happen, it will leave at the end. What will happen, this distance will be decreasing and it will join as a river, and there the ox like structure lake will be produced. That lake we call it as oxbow lake. Oxbow lake. So the term meander has been named on the basis of meander river of Asia Minor. It flows through number of curves and turns. So at the times the river overflows its banks, this leads to the flooding of the neighboring areas. So as the river floods, it deposits layers of fine soil and the other material called sediments along its banks. This leads to the formation of a flat fertile floodplain, and the raised banks are called leaves. So when we are getting continuous rain, okay, what will happen? The river, what will happen? The water will be increasing, the amount of water will be increasing, and that it leads to flood. Isn't it? Nowadays Karnataka is getting more rain, means what will happen? Automatically the water level will be increasing and it will reach Tamil Nadu. We are collecting that water in the Mettur dam and we are sending that water to up to Tanjore, isn't it? For cultivation of crops, isn't it? So at the time the river overflows in its bank, that is on the time of flooding, what will happen? It will collect all the fertile material. Yes, it will collect all the fertile materials and it will deposit. The deposition will be taking place. The sediments will be deposited. We call that fertile substances as sediments. And this leads to the formation of floodplain. So the raised banks, we call it as leaves. Okay. As the river approaches the sea, so when it's originate in the hilly region, the speed of the river will be maximum, isn't it? So the speed of the water will be maximum when it falls like a waterfall. So from that place only we are generating electricity because of the velocity of water, speed of water we are generating electricity also. So after it coming down from the mountain, it will take its own path and it reaches the flood plain. Then after that it has to reach the sea or ocean, isn't it? That place we call it as river mouth. So at this place the water the speed of the water will be decreasing. The speed of the water will be decreasing and it will be separated like 3 or 4 rivers branches, that so we call that as the distributaries. So the velocity of the river becomes so slow and it begins to deposit its load. So each distributary forms its own mouth. So the collection of sediments at a particular place we call that as the delta. So all the distributaries will be meeting at a particular place and that place we call it as delta. The delta will be rich in fertile soil. Nutrients will be rich in that place, delta. So deltas are excellent productive lands and have more minerals which favor cultivation. Example, Kaveri Delta, Ganges Delta, Mississippi Delta. Kaveri Delta around the river Kaveri, Ganges Delta around the river Ganges, Mississippi Delta around the river Mississippi. The next one, so we have seen the landforms which are formed because of the water, erosion and deposition. Now we are going to see the glacial action, the landforms which are formed due to the glacial action. So what is meant by glacier? Glacier is nothing but frozen water, that is ice or snow on the mountain region. So a large body of ice moving slowly down a slope or valley due to gravity is called a glacier. So when we throw a ball up, what will happen? Automatically the ball will come down. Why it is coming down? Due to the gravitational force. Like that, in the polar region, that is in the Arctic region, water will be present as the snow on the mountains or valley. So when the temperature is increasing, automatically what will happen? The ice will melt and it will come down. Yes, and it will come down. Slowly it will come down and that we call it as glacier. So glaciers are grouped into two glaciers, mountain or valley glaciers or continental glacier. So what is meant by continental glacier? Continental glacier is nothing but the glacier covering vast areas of a continent with thick ice sheets. Yes, so continents, Antarctica is a continent which is having most that is frozen part, Antarctica and Greenland, that is a example for continental glacier. Mountain or valley glacier, example Himalayas and the Alps. So valley glacier is a stream of ice flowing along a valley. It usually follows the former river courses and are bounded by steep sides. So glaciers erode the landscape. The ice will also. How river water is eroding the land, like that ice water. Is ice water in the form of ice will also erode the landform. Yes, so glaciers erode the landscape by leveling soils and stones to expose the solid rock below. So chalk is the important landform which is formed by the erosion of glacier. Chalk is a glacially eroded rock basin with a steep side wall and steep head wall surrounding an armchair shaped depression. So if you can observe this picture when you see it, you can observe it is an arm shaped, yes, chair shaped depression, and this depression is formed because of the erosion of glacier. Example, Corrie in Scotland and Carr in Germany. The next one, as ice melts is, so as the ice melts, they get filled up the chalk with water and become beautiful lakes in the mountains. So when you go to Kodaikanal, Ooty and all, you can see lake will be present there, isn't it? So you will enjoy that boat riding and all. Yes, so between in the mountain, because of the erosion of that mountain region, due to the ice, due to the water which is present in the ice, it will form a beautiful lake also. That lake we call it as Torn Lake. So when two adjacent cirques erode towards each other, the previously rounded landscape is transformed into a narrow, rocky, steep-sided ridge called aerators. So you can observe this picture. On seeing the picture, it is very understood that ice will be eroding the mountain and it will form the round, top will be round always, and this get eroded and it will be present as a pointed structure. We call that as the aerators. The next one, so that's all the landforms which are formed by means of glacier. So what are all the landforms formed by means of glacier? Chalk, aerators and all the example for, and also the lake, Torn Lake. Now we are going to see the landforms which are formed by means of wind. Even wind will also erode the landforms. Yes, it will be, because of the erosion, it will form some landforms. So you can observe this picture, mushroom rock. So we can observe this mushroom rock in desert. In desert region, water will be flowing. Water will be blowing from one direction to another direction. When the wind blowing in a particular direction, the soft rock which are present at the base will be getting eroded, and that hard rock will be present as it is. That is, hard rock will be having round top hard rock. At the base, you will be having eroded parts of soft rock, and it will show a structure of mushroom. So we call this as the mushroom rock. Because of the erosion and deposition in the deserts, we call that as the mushroom rock. The next one, inselbergs. Winds erode the lower section of the rock more than the upper part. So only mushroom rock is forming. Therefore, such rocks have narrower base and wider will be top. An isolated residual hill standing like a pillar with rounded tops are called inselbergs. So you can observe this picture. So this example, inselberg in Kalahari desert of South Africa. So the top will be having round shaped and bottom you will be having like pillar like structure, and we call that as a inselberg. When the wind blows, it lifts and transports sand from one place to another place. When it stops blowing, what will happen? During the blowing, the wind will carry some sand particles from one place to another place. When the blowing of wind stops, there automatically the sand will be falling down and there it will be depositing, isn't it? So when it stops blowing, the sand falls and gets deposited in low hill like structure, and these are called sand dunes. We call that as the sand dunes, and the crescent shaped sand dunes we call it as barchans. Yes, you can observe this picture. So the shape of that sand dune is like a crescent shape, so we call that as a barchans. When the grains of sand are fine and light, when the sand, if you go to Marina Beach, you can take that sand, means it is weightless, it is light, isn't it? So when the grains of sand are very fine and light, the wind can carry it over very long distances. When such sand is deposited in large areas, we call that as the loess. So the large deposits of loess are found in China. So the loess structure is also given here. So the northern China loess deposits are brought from the Gobi Desert. Next one, coast. Coast means nothing but coastal line, that is beach. A part of the land adjoining or near the sea. We call that as the sea coast. Sea coast is nothing but the meeting place of land and sea, or land and ocean. We call that as a sea coast. So the boundary of a coast where the land meets water is called coastline. So the coastal areas are subject to change due to wave erosion. So in ocean or seas, always the waves will be coming and it will reach the land and again it will go. isn't it? So when it reaches the land, it will carry some things from the sea, and it will deposit on the coastal line. So sometimes the erosion will also be taking place. So here coastal forms, landforms. The erosion and deposition of sea wave give rise to coastal landforms. So you can observe this picture, sea cliff. Yes, sea cliff. So how the sea cliffs are formed? The erosion and deposition of the sea face give rise to coastal landforms. Sea cliffs are steep rock faces formed. When the sea waves dash against them, the sea waves continuously strike at the rocks and cracks will develop. So when it reaches the landforms, automatically the land water, that is sea water or ocean water, will be having high source of salt. So that water will be eroding the hard rock and it will cracks will be formed, and over time they become larger and larger and wider, and thus hollow like caves are formed on the rocks, and these caves are called as sea cave. You can observe this picture, sea cave. As the cavities of a sea caves become bigger over a long time, on the roof of the cave only remains, and thus forming a sea arches. Yes, so further erosion breaks the roof and only the walls are all left, and these wall-like features are called stakes. So you can observe the sea arc and sea stalk. So what will happen? First sea cliffs will form, and then sea caves will form, then sea arch will form, and after that sea stack will be forming. So the sea waves deposit sediments of sand and gravel along the shores, forming beaches. So sandbar is an elongated deposition of sand or mud found in the sea almost parallel to the coast. So beach, you enjoy beach, no? So you know everything about beach. The first longest beach in the world is the Miami Beach in South Florida. The second largest beach in the world is Marina Beach in Chennai. Yes, the next one, lagoon. So lagoon is a shallow stretch of water partially or completely separated from the sea. Lagoon is a shallow stretch of water which is partially or completely separated from the sea. So Pulicat Lake in Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, and Vembanada Lake in Kerala are the famous lagoons in India. So the lagoons will be formed near the land or ocean. It will be just like an island. It will the appearance of that lake will be like a island. Okay, so that is lagoon. So that's all this lesson. We can summary we can see now. The landscape is being continuously worn away by means of weathering and erosion. Weathering means cutting down, breaking. Erosion means arikirathu. River, glacier, wind and sea waves are the major agents of exogenic forces. So from its source to its mouth, the river is constantly reshaping the land and giving rise to different landforms. Because of river, there are so many landforms. V-shaped valley. Yes, we have seen some of the example here, and the river begins to break up into a number of streams called distributaries, and deltas are also excellent productive lands which have more minerals. Then glacier means a large body of ice moving slowly down a slope due to gravity. So moraines are glacial deposition. Wind, next one is wind. Wind is the active agent of erosion and deposition in deserts. The next one, wind. Because of wind, erosion and deposition, we have seen that mushroom rock, Inselberg and all. The next one, the sea waves deposit sediments of sand and gravel along the shores, forming the beaches. So coastal line, we have seen about the coastal line, and sea cliff developed into sea caves developed into sea arcs. After that it will be separator and sea stalk. So these are all some of the landforms which are formed by means of, what is that, a river, wave, because of the wave. So what are the main agents of erosion? How the landforms are formed? River, that is water, air and wave. Yes, and also glacier. So that's all for today's class, children. There is landform lesson. Just you go through this lesson. Each and every definition is very important. You understand the definition, and you can by comparing the definition with the diagram, it will be easier for understanding. Okay, children. Thank you.